Coming up on Newswatch, Ohio University's new esports facility is open to casual and competitive gamers.
Plus, Russians flee the country after Vladimir Putin summons reservists for the war in Ukraine.
And in sports, Ohio football returns to Peden Stadium, looking to bounce back from 2 straight losses. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening.
Coming up on Newswatch, and I'm Andre Norrell. Sorry about that. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting Southeastern Ohio. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, or AFS-CME, are rallying on College Green tomorrow, urging the university to reinstate an estimated 100 terminated positions. Now, these positions were eliminated because of budget constrictions before the COVID-19 pandemic. John Atkinson, the union president, says the reduction of positions makes the work environment more challenging for remaining staff. The rally is scheduled for tomorrow at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow. With less than 7 weeks till Election Day, the Ohio Secretary of State's office is running programs that will partner with businesses and community groups to prepare for the November election. The partnership with businesses seeks to ramp up voter registration in the state and try to recruit more poll workers. The office is partnering with wine, beer, and distillery companies and barbers and cosmetologists and schools across the state and hopes to grow more community businesses. Secretary of State Frank LaRose also noted people with past felony convictions are now allowed to register to vote under a new program titled Restore the Right to Vote. The deadline to register is on October 11th.
Ohioans will vote this fall on a proposed constitutional amendment that would make it easier to keep people behind bars before trial. The Columbus Dispatch reports that State Issue 1 says when setting bail amounts, courts must consider public safety, a person's criminal record, the likelihood they'll show up to court, and the seriousness of the crime. Opponents say this amendment will not necessarily improve public safety, but that it would worsen an already broken money bail system.
Good afternoon, Southeastern Ohio. I am Newswatch forecaster Jacob Van Cleve. I just wanted to pull this up because over the last 24 hours, we saw over 20 degrees in temperature changes, ranging from about 90 degrees all the way down to about 64 degrees. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, here in Athens, Ohio, we're about 63 degrees with mostly cloudy skies with relatively low humidity. Now, if we move on to our local radar here, we can see if you look a little more towards the west there in Dayton, Cincinnati area, there's a little bit of precipitation, but nothing crazy going on, especially south of us in Charleston. But in Athens, Ohio itself, there's not much going on. Now, if we take a look at Athens tonight, lows of 43 degrees, mostly clear skies. It's going to be a beautiful night. Just make sure to put a jacket if you're going on out tonight. Now back to you at the news desk.
The city of Lancaster is implementing 2 new pavement projects on South Broad Street plus High and Perry Street. On South Broad Street, the project is a new parking method called reverse angle parking. City engineer Mitch Nolan claims that the new configuration may seem unique to the community members. Drivers pull ahead past the spot in reverse and diagonally as opposed to pulling in head on. The new system is said to help drivers re-enter traffic easier and improve overall safety on the roads. The new parking method is expected to be completed this fall. It is expected to take some time for drivers to adjust. West Virginia wildlife officials are making efforts to restore and protect the northern bobwhite quail population, a bird known for its bobwhite call. Governor Jim Justice announced yesterday that 12,000 bobwhite quails were added to wildlife management areas across the state. Some have even been fitted with transmitters to monitor their survival and habitat use. The goal is to bring the bobwhite quail population from 12,000 to 20,000. The Division of Natural Resources will add more of the animal through October. This is all a part of a 5-year restoration project following bobwhite quail disappearing from West Virginia in the late 1970s due to habitat destruction and harsh winters. When Newswatch returns, former President Trump responds to the Justice Department previewing his seized documents. Plus, massive protests continue throughout the nation in wake of the death of Iranian woman Mahsa Amini. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
A visionary approach to medicine.
The needs of the patient come first.
Was invented over 120 years ago.
I couldn't have asked for anything better for her.
I've got another 25, 30 years in front of me for sure.
Faith, hope, and science. Those three things are absolutely critical.
You are never alone in your efforts to find an answer to that patient's problem.
Ken Burns presents The Mayo Clinic.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Rising seas.
Climate change.
A city in peril.
There will be no Venice in less than 50 years.
A race against time.
The lagoon is what protects Venice from further damages.
An engineering wonder.
These gates slowly rise and hold back the high tide.
If Venice changes its course, it can last another 1,000 years.
Saving Venice on Nova.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
As Foreign Service officers, you are sample Americans. People abroad will think better or worse of the United States because of what you do.
The State Department had the well-deserved reputation of being extremely elitist.
It was pale male in Yale.
Fact of the matter was, they could never conceive that a black man could ever be an ambassador.
How did these parks change America?
I'm Jeffrey Baer, and I'll be your guide
as we stroll through 10 game-changing city parks, from the squares of Savannah to Central Park to the San Antonio Riverwalk and more.
Find out which great green spaces made the list
of 10 parks that changed America.
Saturday at 9 on WOUB.
Former President Donald Trump is responding to two probes that took major steps forward yesterday. A federal appeals court panel ruled the Justice Department can resume its criminal review of classified documents seized from Trump's Florida home. The ruling echoes DOJ concerns about national security risks. The appellate judges didn't buy the argument Trump had somehow declassified the documents. Meanwhile, in New York, the state attorney general filed a civil suit against Trump and others. She alleges he fraudulently obtained loans by inflating the value of his assets on applications, among other schemes. Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, made similar allegations when testifying before a House committee in 2019. The appeals court ruling is a reversal of the trial judge's decision that put documents marked classified in the hands of the special master that would have allowed Trump's attorneys to see them, but would have barred the Justice Department from using them in its criminal probes.
The Federal Reserve is taking action aimed at tackling record high inflation. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell announced yesterday the Fed raised interest rates again by another 0.75 percentage point. Jen Sullivan has more.
Aggressive action from the Fed. On Wednesday, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell announcing the 5th consecutive interest rate hike this year.
The FOMC raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 percentage point.
And economists aren't surprised and expect more rate increases are ahead of us. The Fed taking drastic action to slam the brakes on the hot economy and historic inflation.
They're obviously very concerned about inflation and raising rates very aggressively to slow the economy's growth rate down to try to quell that inflation.
Higher interest rates means higher borrowing costs for all Americans on their credit cards, cars, student loans, on their homes, where mortgage rates have already topped 6%, and also a hit on retirement savings.
What's happening right now should be a warning bell that get out of debt that you have and don't take on as much debt, because whatever you take on, it's going to cost you more.
Experts say most consumers will feel the pain, and for those living paycheck to paycheck, it could mean making difficult decisions. Personal finance author Michelle Singletary recommends holding off on big purchases until the overheated economy stabilizes.
Is this the right time? Can you wait before you jump into the housing market or to buy that new car? Because it's going to cost you more.
The Fed's move does have a silver lining for some. Economist Mark Zandi says higher rates could benefit savers.
Ultimately, this should be a plus for you because you'll get a higher rate on that.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva says if we don't take action to support the most vulnerable, there will be consequences. People on the street. The U.S. is sending a message to Iranian leaders sanctioning its morality police after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in their custody last week. Her death has sparked massive protests in Iran. Amini was arrested for allegedly improperly wearing a hijab. That same day, U.S. officials say she was sent to the hospital in a coma and died 2 days later from internal injuries. Now, the U.S. Treasury Department is targeting Iranian morality police officials along with a number of other senior leaders with sanctions which will freeze their assets in the U.S. and make it illegal for American citizens to do business with them. In a statement, the Treasury Secretary said, quote, "We condemn this unconscionable act in the strongest terms and call on the Iranian government to end its violence against women and its ongoing violent crackdown on free expression and assembly."
Russians are fleeing the country after Vladimir Putin escalated the country's military campaign in Ukraine, all while top diplomats from across the world convene in New York City. Gloria Pazmino has the latest.
Condemnation at a United Nations Security Council meeting Thursday.
The very international order that we have gathered here to uphold is being shredded before our eyes.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken slamming Russian President Vladimir Putin following escalatory actions by Moscow this week during a meeting convened to discuss the war in Ukraine.
That President Putin picked this week, as most of the world gathers at the United Nations, to add fuel to the fire that he started, shows his utter contempt for the UN Charter, for the General Assembly, and for this Council.
In response to Putin's decision to conscript some 300,000 Russian citizens in the reserve to the military amid his faltering war efforts, some are fleeing the country, waiting in long lines of traffic at Russia's land borders. Others are voicing their opposition.
Не готов, лучше сяду, но воевать не пойду. За эту власть точно нет.
As seen in the social media video, while not independently verified by CNN, it appears to be authentic. According to a monitoring group, more than 1,300 people have been detained across 38 Russian cities this week after participating in anti-war protests, with some detainees already drafted into military service. In New York, I'm Gloria Pasmino reporting.
Russia's use of the new special military operation pulling 300,000 reserves. Many citizens are voicing their opinion, and some are even going as far as fleeing the country. Hurricane Fiona, after devastating the Caribbean, makes its way to Bermuda. That story is still ahead.
And with Hurricane Fiona out in the Atlantic and plenty of active weather across the country, what could you expect here in southeastern Ohio? Expect that when Newswatch returns. In the meantime, check us out on social media at YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram.
Week 6 is here, and the action week to week just gets better. On Friday night, the Granville Blue Aces take on the Licking Heights Hornets in our game of the week. The Fairland Dragons travel to Gallia Academy in a test against the undefeated Blue Devils, plus tons of action from the TVC Ohio, including a battle between Alexander and Vinton County. So check us out on Friday night at 11:30 p.m. on WOUB. And remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and gridiron glory.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
What we did today is the most reckless act I've ever committed.
What kind of a world is it? Not the kind of world I wish to live in.
Guilt's about looking back. What I needed is something that can help me. It's revenge.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport on the PBS app. Download it today.
How did these parks change America?
I'm Jeffrey Bear, and I'll be your guide
as we stroll through 10 game-changing city parks, from the squares of Savannah to Central Park to the San Antonio Riverwalk and more.
Find out which great green spaces made the list
of 10 parks that changed America.
Saturday at 9 on WOUB.
rising seas.
Climate change.
A city in peril.
There will be no Venice in less than 50 years.
A race against time.
The lagoon is what protects Venice from further damages.
An engineering wonder.
These gates slowly rise and hold back the high tide.
If Venice changes its course, it can last another 1,000 years.
Saving Venice on Nova.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
Hello again, I'm Newswatch forecaster Jacob Van Cleve. This is your full weather. Now, if we take a look at the country, you see a lot of rain towards the Appalachian Mountains and kind of more towards my east here, or west here, my apologies, over in Kansas City. That's associated with a big trough that's bringing a kind of like a cold front weather, bringing all this cooler temperature into our area that we've noticed, and then also having that line of precipitation. Now, as we look at our actual local radar, what's going on here in southeastern Ohio isn't too much. Again, like I mentioned before, in Dayton and Cincinnati, you have a little bit of rain going on, especially south here in Charleston, West Virginia. But again, nothing here, dry conditions, clear skies. Now, if we look at Athens today, you reached a high of 70 degrees, 70 just beautiful, with a low of 43 tonight. Now, today was mostly sunny. Earlier this morning was a little bit cloudy, but it cleared up quite nicely. Now, if we look at Athens tonight with a low of 43 degrees overnight, as the coldest it'll get, it'll be mostly clear. So any of you that are looking to look at the stars tonight or just stargaze in general, it's just a great weather for that. Just make sure to put a jacket on for that. Now, tomorrow, if we look at our surface analysis, you could see with that high pressure that's sitting just over Detroit there, it's going to kind of bring cooler temperatures in our area, still bring in those cooler winds and cooler temperatures, and just overall make it really nice for the next couple of days. But that won't last too long, unfortunately. I'll have more of that next. Now, Athens, Ohio, tomorrow you have highs of 67 degrees, mostly sunny skies, and nice cool temperatures again at night at 49 degrees. Now, that surface analysis for Saturday, you can see that high pressure itself move on off into the Appalachian Mountains itself, and you can see a low pressure system with that cold front and a little bit of a warm front here in the red, kind of moving its way towards us, and that's the precipitation that I told you that we will see soon. So unfortunately, those clear and beautiful cooler skies won't linger as long, but the cooler temperatures will. Now, if we take a look at Athens for a weekend, it looks to be a great weekend. Now, Sunday itself doesn't look as great with a 60% chance of thunderstorms, but as we look at a 7-day stretch with Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all having temperatures around 60, high 60s to 70 degrees as your highs, with lows of 40s or high 40s to mid 50s. Now, if we move into Monday, that cold front and the rain that we were expecting will continue into the morning at 20% with a high of 68 degrees and 47 as the low. Now, as that moves through, cold temperatures will then come back into our area and keep those daytime highs lower than average. Now, Tuesday, you have mostly sunny skies with a high of 68 degrees and a low of 45 degrees. That'll continue again into Wednesday with a high of 67 degrees, mostly sunny skies, and a low of 40 degrees. Now, Thursday, the last day of our 7-day outlook, you can see temperatures of a high of 64 degrees and a low of 41. Now, it really does feel like fall is here, but for some people across the country, it's just not the case. If you look at Bermuda with Hurricane Fiona right now, she's coming through, she's moving through at a Category 4 hurricane. It's a little concerning for the people out there, but thankfully, hopefully at least, that it will move away, not affect anyone here in North America, and stay away from Bermuda. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Jacob. The season's first major hurricane in the Atlantic strengthened to a Category 4 and is taking aim at Bermuda. The powerful storm has ravaged parts of the Caribbean and Puerto Rico, leaving thousands without power and water. Jen Sullivan takes a look at the storm's path and the devastation it's left behind.
Hurricane Fiona now being described as a monster Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds of around 130 miles per hour heading toward Bermuda, the island under a hurricane warning. At least 5 people have been killed from Fiona's wrath. The powerful storm decimating Puerto Rico and parts of the Caribbean earlier this week, dumping inches, even feet of rain in some areas and triggering mudslides. Many towns in the Dominican Republic are underwater.
We are left with nothing, in ruins, nowhere to sleep, nowhere to sit. This is something incredible that we've never seen before.
In Puerto Rico, Thousands are still without power and running water. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has been assessing the damages since Tuesday.
Power and water, that's our #1 priority. It's going to take a while to understand truly the extent of the damage for repair.
Thursday, President Joe Biden speaking with FEMA officials and the governor of Puerto Rico to discuss ways to help, including federal funding.
I'm here to help. We really are. Hundreds of FEMA and federal personnel are now there, including search and rescue teams, bilingual disaster survivor assistance teams, and U.S. Corps power restoration experts.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Another developing storm poised to be called Hermine could become a monstrous threat to the U.S. Gulf Coast by next week.
Coming up in sports, Nelsonville, York has new additions to their high school. Find out when Newswatch returns.
Week 6 is here, and the action week to week just gets better. On Friday night, the Granville Blue Aces take on the Licking Heights Hornets in our game of the week. The Fairland Dragons travel to Gallia Academy in a test against the undefeated Blue Devils, plus tons of action from the TVC Ohio, including a battle between Alexander and Vinton County. So check us out on Friday night at 11:30 p.m. on WOUB. And remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and gridiron glory.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow Vintage San Francisco.
I remember climbing in them as a little child. Are you serious?
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow. My heavens.
Are you surprised?
Yes, I can't believe it.
Do you know which items have gone up or down in value? Test yourself next time on Antiques Roadshow.
Monday at 8 on WOUB.
No!
On Finding Your Roots, Lee Daniels.
There were certain things we just didn't talk about.
And Rebecca Hall.
I just couldn't shake the feeling that there was something being hidden.
Family History reveals a murder mystery.
That's a lot to take in.
It's complicated.
And an indigenous deception.
Your grandfather was a chief.
It's truly mind-blowing.
Plus, a DNA match.
Hey, cousin.
What?
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Rising seas.
Climate change.
A city in peril.
There will be no Venice in less than 50 years.
A race against time.
The lagoon is what protects Venice from further damages.
An engineering wonder.
These gates slowly rise and hold back the high tide.
If Venice changes its course, it can last another 1,000 years.
Saving Venice on Nova.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
Welcome back. I'm Reese Thompson. Ohio women's soccer prepares to take on fellow MAC rival Kent State tonight. Ohio makes the trip to Dick's Stadium to open Mid-American Conference play for both squads. The 4-2-1 Bobcats have an opportunity for revenge after the Flashes knocked them out of MAC tournament last season in Bowling Green. But it's a different Kent State squad this year, one that looks for its first win of the season. Tonight's game is set for 7 p.m. Ohio football finally returns to Athens for a Saturday game against the Fordham Rams. This marks the first matchup between the two programs. Fordham enters with a 3-0 record while the Bobcats come in with a 1-2 record. The Bobcats had a rough stretch, taking back-to-back losses against Power 5 opponents, but the team sees the losses as a learning experience. Head coach Tim Albin says they need to improve the tempo if they want to turn it around.
A couple things that stand out. We've got to find a way to start faster. All three games at this point, it's been second quarter until we get going. We've got to get resolved. Is it opponent? Is it us? Those are things staff-wise we've got to get corrected.
The game will take place in Peden Stadium on Saturday at 2 p.m. Nelsonville York High School's weight room has a new look. The project began in the spring of 2021. The school board agreed the equipment could use an upgrade and had the funds to fully renovate the facility. Members of the Buckeye football squad says the new additions can help them reach the next level.
And even a couple were like, wow, if we can't get in the weight room now motivated by this, nothing's going to motivate us.
Getting these young guys in here and getting them excited and teach them the right ways to lift, and that's just going to build our program for years to come. And I think it just gets everybody excited and getting going for the season.
I've been waiting for it for a while since they took it down. I'm just glad to get back in here and start lifting again.
You got designed like a D1, weight room, and it looks like it, and it's nice, really nice.
The team looks to use the new facility as they finish out the football season. Ohio hockey season is underway as the team prepares for its opener against John Carroll. The Bobcats look to improve after a 15-14 campaign under first-year head coach Leo Marone last season. But it won't be easy for the Bobcats to square off against a John Carroll team that went 20-8 a season ago. Good for 18th in the ACHA out of 68 teams. The puck drops at John Carroll tomorrow at 8 p.m. It's time for the Battle of the Bricks as Ohio volleyball faces Miami Redhawks this weekend. The Bobcats host Miami for matches tomorrow and Saturday in the Convocation Center. This is the MAC opener for the teams. The Bobcats enter MAC play with a record of 6-5 after a couple of invitationals to start the season. Miami wants to get to 500 with a record of 5-6. Tomorrow's matchup starts at 7 p.m. You know, it's been a sports-packed weekend, and we're about to go into that, and nobody doesn't like a battle of the bricks. Don't you guys agree?
Yeah. Definitely, I would definitely have to agree. I mean, you know, you were talking about football earlier in Ohio University. You know, I just think that's crazy that they're going against Fordham, because aren't they a different division?
Yes, and you know, they had 2 rough games the past 2, and they were away, but I really think them coming back home is going to help them, you know, settle back in. And I know they practiced at Penn State, or they had a game, and there was a lot of crowd noise, and now here they're in a familiar area with a community they know.
Yeah, well, I may need to go to that game. I want to see the Marching 110, the football team, win. 3rd time's a charm, right? That's what they say. All right, we're going to take a final look at weather with Jacob.
Now, a great thing with the weather is that the sports will be very enjoyable to enjoy, especially the Battle of the Bricks. Now, if we take a look at our low for Athens tonight, low of 43 degrees, again with mostly clear skies. Now, that will continue again until tomorrow, where we see those cooler temperatures with a high of 67 degrees and a low of 49. Now, it will be a mostly sunny skies day, so anyone trying to enjoy their Friday will be able to do it greatly. Now, Athens 7-day outlook. Friday, Saturday, 67, 72 is your highs with lows between 49 to 56 degrees. Sunday and Monday, 74 is a high on Sunday with 60% rain showers. Now, expect thunderstorms with that and a little bit of that rain to continue until Monday. Now, with a high of 68 degrees on Monday and low of 47, those cooler temperatures with that cold front that'll move through is going to continue into Tuesday. Tuesday with a high of 67 degrees, low of 43. Wednesday, you have a high of 65 degrees, low of 43 degrees, again with mostly sunny skies. Now, Thursday, mostly sunny skies, high of 67, low of 41. Now, earlier I talked about Hurricane Fiona, and here's a live kind of satellite imagery of her moving past Bermuda there, staying away from the United States. Now, if you take a look south of Puerto Rico, you can see a little bit of cloud formation there. That's where Hermide is expected to form and kind of funnel its way through up until where it will meet between Yucatan Peninsula there in Mexico and Cuba. Now, the cone of uncertainty there is unsure, so it's too early to tell. However, in the meantime, that's all we have for weather for you. Now, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks so much, Jacob. Looking forward to those cooler temperatures. Now, you're going to want to hear this story. A 90-year-old woman in Mississippi got a wish fulfilled with the help of her nursing home by earning an honorary GED. Eloise Lewis dropped out of school in the 10th grade. Looking back on her 90 years, she said the one thing she wished she had done was finishing high school. So the staff at Gulfport Care Center worked to make it happen. The activity director got her connected to a Christian-based learning center in Gulfport. She passed the mock GED test administered by the group and was presented with her unofficial GED certificate in a ceremony yesterday.
And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Silver Barker.
And I'm Andre Norrells. And for all of us here at Newswatch, I'm Andre Norrells. I said that already, but stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. Remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org. Have a great night.